What's up, wake up humans, you son of a bitches. We
We're
got
live.
another evening. We're live, baby,
You
with
think that's a good idea? Okay.
hell, man, Martinez, Judson, and Drew Henderson and Lieberman, man. Let's get at it. Let's just have fun. We really have
Do
no
it.
topic, but we're going to be talking somewhat about chiropractic and life and Eddie's new backdrop and Drew's new note taker. Man, we're getting fancy with this shit. I got one better for you guys. I was cleaning out my office today, and I figured if we're going to be influencers,
You have a cigar in your
That's
hand.
Bono.
Well,
Bono.
look
Yeah, look at
glasses.
you.
Should I wear the yellow? Like influencers are doing this shit. I noticed like the big podcast guys, like
Blue blockers.
I thought
You got those at CVS in the
someone got this for
geriatric
me
section.
years ago, and I had this thing tucked up on a shelf. I'm like, what the hell is that? You can tell I wear them.
Should I change my shirt? I feel like I'm not dressed up well enough for this.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. So
Can you hear me now?
can you hear me now?
This thing on.
Click, click, click. So what's going on, boys? How's everyone's day? Rocking? We got
Oh, everything's
chiropractors
great.
around the world listening to this that are looking to be inspired.
Oh.
So I figured, Lieberman, you'd be the perfect person to start it off.
Yeah. We talked a little last time, but we can go back onto it. That last DE was transformational for me. And it's good because it only took 30 something years to do it, but it was amazing. Of just tired of mediocrity. Just really good at being good, and that's a killer. What's his name? Chase talked about it. I can have a great practice without doing too much, and no, I shouldn't say great practice. A really good practice. And then something kicked in with DE, just reminding me to, that my patients deserve more. My daughter was coming in; she deserved better. It was really kind of trying to get back to the start. I don't know if you remember when you're building a practice and it's just you're so fired up to save the world and change the world, and then you get successful, and success can breed, laziness or just forgetting exactly what you're doing it for. So I'm just so glad I get DE plugged in.
If you're going to be lazy sitting around 800 visits a week, I think you're doing okay, bro.
Well, you know what? I mean, just being honest, we're around a 600 visit a week. And when you start seeing that creep coming in, that's when I say, and that's what I said, I could do 600 in my sleep. And, but that's just not, it just wasn't, it's incredible. Mindset difference, energy difference, and just what comes into the office now compared to what came in when in the last, let's just say, a year or so. I think we've had more babies start in this last month, and I have never heard so many parents say that this is a different child. A different child. Like, that's constant hearing that. And then a grandmother comes in with them and just thanks us. It's like the third visit. And it's something, she says something like, not an angry baby anymore. These are just children, and it just remind, it's great and it's perfect. It's exactly what my daughter wants and wants to see, and just the timing and just the way. You know what? I think we had mentioned that maybe lasting purpose would come out in this, because I think it always does. But just to get back to giving, loving, and serving out of your own abundance with no expectation, and trying to do it great has been game changing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Brian, it's not even like what we doing physically too. It's just like you said, it's a mindset, and how our stinking thinking gets in the way, and we start to go through the motions, and that's that funk that a lot of people get into. But it's just keeping centered, and having that it's all mindset, basically, and just to keep that fire burning within us, to serve, and remember why we started in the first place. So that was good that you brought that up.
Yeah, and
I
when we live in lasting purpose of giving, loving, serving, doing out of our own abundance, with no expectation of return. That and we focus on service and contribution, success is going to come naturally. You know, whatever that success is for you, it's going to come because you're giving out of your own abundance with no expectation of return. You know, it's I'm just so thankful that we get done with the day and it's just like, dang, that was a great day. We got so many hugs, we gave so many hugs. You know, baby spit up on you and it's great, you know, slobbering on you and it's perfect. I don't know, man. We're so blessed. So blessed.
To everybody listening, like, how do you define success? You know, it's,
Yeah.
you know, I hit a point in my life where I was like, I didn't need a damn thing. Right. And I would say I was successful, but then you meet people who are twice as successful by whatever definition, whether it's financial, et cetera. And I mean, you guys know me, the past couple of years, it's been freaking a little bit stressful.
Hmm.
And it's just more like, and this, I think, a great topic for maybe some of the older chiropractors. When we were younger, I mean, it was like fire and brimstone, man. And I honestly lost a bit of that just being tired. You know, I don't think I was comfortable. I think I was very uncomfortable, but managing it. Where now it's
Yes.
like the team we have, like, I think this is what is happening with you, Brian. You got your daughter in there now, which is reigniting something. I've got some young kids in here now. One's licensed, one's an intern, my staff. And now it's almost like going back to the basics, right? To you know, the volume that I used to be by myself got destroyed by, you know, letting other negativity things come in, where now we had to redo all that. And now it's back to basics. And it's that fire you're talking about, Brian, like having these young kids and they're fired up. I'm like, they get an idea. I'm like, do it. They want to make videos. I'm like, do it,
Yes.
do it.
And
Yeah.
I hate them. I hate it. And I'm still just okay. You gotta we picked winners for raffles for a referral. We want to do it on video. No. Okay. Yes. Fine. Just do it.
I saw you pulling stuff.
Oh, it's the worst. I felt like a freaking retard, but still, you know what? But they're having fun. And they want to now. My daughter wants to rebrand the whole thing and change the colors and the logos. And I'm like, you know what? Just go for it. You know, just let pass them by me. Let me make sure I like them. But you said something before about that you don't think you were comfortable. You're disconnected, and popped into my head. I said, what I was doing was justifying my discomfort.
Ah,
And I'd write it down because I definitely wasn't comfortable with the way I was. And again, you know, I don't know if this is supposed to be for younger or older, but it just obviously this just flows the way it flows. But that I was not comfortable with the way I was performing in the office, you know, mentally, you know. But I was doing a very good job at justifying the discomfort until I finally said, I've had enough. I got to get back to, I mean, it's always back to basics. And Eddie, you're 100% right. We changed nothing really physically about the office. I mean, we did nothing differently. I just decided, hey, why don't you show up like this fucking matters, you know, like you're making a difference, like you want to make a difference, like you want to be there. You know, I was justifying looking at a clock to see what time it was to see if we were almost done. You know, I was like, wait, hopefully my associate will see that person and not me. That's all justifying. I made that okay, and it's not. So it's been, you know, it's, again, you know, talk about perfect storms, and you know, it's one of the reasons that I've just had to stick. I'm so glad I've stuck with DE, is because, you know, when you're at a high, you can help lift other people up, and when you're at a low, you got other people to lift you up, and you never know where you're going to be in the cycle. But I'm just glad I stayed in the cycle, you know, because I don't know if I would have had the balls to walk back in after 5 years not being at DE like some of these people do. I give them a lot of credit. I really do. You know, especially people who were there fairly consistently, you know, like kind of DE people, and then they kind of fall off for whatever reason. And again, I mean, I think we're pretty good. I don't judge people why they really fall off, you know, but, you know, it takes some a set of cojones to walk back in there. You know, we're not the easiest group in the world, always. But so I give them a lot of credit, and I hope more people will.
Yeah, and I
And it's
think
hard exposing us.
going through DE and coming for so many years, that big theme that I think it was back in the day, John Hoffman used to say new man, right?
Hey, man.
So, whatever rut we're in, or whatever thinking we're going through, or whatever cycle we're in, it's so easy to realize that all you got to do is press the reset button, say new man, and everything changes just like that.
It did. Monday was, I guess the last day of that week in DE was Wednesday. Monday was a completely different world in the office. And I've had like one or two, maybe I would call off days since then, or half days, but not nearly even like what it was. But what a freaking difference. What a difference. And I'm telling you, my daughter's experience would have been not nearly what it is if she walked in, let's say the month before, and I hadn't made that decision yet and hadn't changed it. It would be a very, very different experience for her. And that would have sucked, and it would have been on me,
Yeah.
So very thankful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were talking, Eddie, about these old timers like John Hoffman saying, "You man." I remember Joe Accurso talking about he don't have time to do 49 breaths, so he'll just go wash his hands
Right.
and feel the water running over him. No telling how many times, probably 10 times a day, I go wash my hands when they're not even dirty, just to get back real quick. Takes just a minute. Wash my hands. All right, new man, right? Washing my hands, new man. Let's go. It's time.
Right.
I'm back centered again.
His glasses.
There's Bono's back.
The Bono's back.
I miss that guy, man. Accurso. I mean,
Wow. That guy.
He could keep things simple.
He can,
One
talk about
briefcase.
just living the most authentic life.
Yeah.
Like it, don't like it, doesn't matter. He was just Joe Accurso. And we don't have a lot or any, I don't know if there are, people like that. And I'm so attracted to it, just like it's scary because, you compare, you kind of look at yourself, you're like, oh my God, I'm not even close to authentic like that. But I miss it so much. I miss having it at DE because I feel like it grounded everybody. It did something to everybody. He was one of a kind, man.
Yeah.
I told you that story when he showed up and he came for the weekend to speak, and he had a little satchel.
Oh, dude, he traveled with nothing.
Nothing. I bought a pair of underwear.
Yeah.
Which I know he did because in the morning when I woke up, I came out and looked at my backyard, and he was in them sunbathing in the backyard. But he was amazing. I was getting ready to drive him to the airport, and we're not close. We're an hour or so, a little over an hour and 15 from the airport, and my dog caught his. Like he started playing with my dog, and he just kind of like fell in love. He was just like. I had to stop him twice from just being with the dog, like one-on-one with the dog, to tell him, okay, we have to go now, like, or there's no chance, But he was so immersed in it. He was so, something fascinated him about the dog, and that was it. He just had a relationship with the dog, and it was incredible.
Talking to it. He probably had a
He
full
was.
conversation.
He was. It was amazing.
And then, his authentic self, he was honest with himself too. Like I know he would be on platform at DE and it would be a 20-minute talk if it just wasn't there. But then if it was good, you'd see him fist pump himself when he finished.
Yeah. Or
Like
he'd say that
he was totally authentic.
Yeah, incredibly. It was he was a special one, but he was raised there, man,
Mm-hmm.
And that's we are so fortunate, that I mean, fortunate to, I guess, be introduced, but like, or I don't know what the word is, but just I'm grateful that I knew I needed to stick around for whatever reason. I'm sure there's 1,000 reasons why I did. I'm sure, ego is one of it, disappointing people, what it looks like, all the things that you wouldn't call authentic somehow kept me around for a long period of time and have helped me become more authentic, and that's, I'm forever grateful. It's just, and that's why I hope if there are people who haven't been there in a while, I hope you come back. I really do.
And I think for them to hear what you're saying about, we're talking about a guy who died many years ago and had such a major impact on our life today that we're still talking about him. And you won't hear people talking about him on Facebook or whatever. He didn't look for that. He just lived this principle, and he was hardcore, and he was you talk successful, very successful, that people could still get that now. People coming will have people they'll connect with that 20 years from now they will talk about if they stick with it. It's not like a sometime thing. You got to keep coming to build these relationships, get to know the people, who's going to connect with you, what message are they going to say at that one moment that it's like, wow. And you're talking about it the rest of your life.
Yeah, and those relationships, it takes work. Like we've been at DE since in school, and not only did we know Joe Accurso and Hoffman, Dick Santo, Dr. Sid, Dr. Nail, Sigafus, but they knew us by name. Yeah. But that only happens when you're there consistently.
Well, I'll see people throw a picture up with Dr. Sid, and it's like they met him twice and they're trying to like equate themselves with him. You know what I mean? Like I had a relationship with Sid and now I'm perpetuating what he did. I'm like, you haven't done shit. You haven't been around. You didn't hang out with Sid. You didn't support him, right? You didn't stand by his side. And now you're trying to use him as like for a photo op. It's like,
support, if you count throwing under a bus support.
Yeah.
So, depending on what support you're looking at.
Right. But now DE's big again and people they think because they had a relationship. Well, I want to speak there. Like,
clearly we had to get into that just to prove that we haven't matured completely yet. So
I like being a little immature, man.
Yeah, I think too. Me too. It makes me feel good. Yeah, now they're calling, they want to speak. That's one of the big kicks. I think Drew said something the other day. I thought it was pretty profound about that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I was on a text. I don't remember what it was, but he said something about coming around. And if you didn't, do you remember what it was, Drew?
No, I don't, man.
Okay.
I guess I just kind of hope you deleted it. It might have been bad. I don't know.
It was good, man.
I think there's a lot of things we've texted and said amongst each other that by the grace of God don't go outside the room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, somebody steals our phone, we're screwed.
Well, to me, that's all part of like having the right tribe of people around you so you could just be brutally honest and be told if you're full of crap or you know what, I agree with you. So you're not losing your mind. Because if I said to everybody what I want to say, which I've done, and it gets me in trouble because it's usually not a nice thing, I'm just better off shutting my mouth. But I can't carry it around with me. I gotta tell you guys and be like, hey, why am I thinking this? Help me through this.
There's been many times where you've called me or I've called you and told you a thought that I thought. And thankfully, what seems to happen is we're not both idiots at the same time. So like one of us is like, maybe we shouldn't go with that one.
Yeah. So I agree with you, but
yes, and that's why I think we also Eddie and Drew are so great to have around because they're such loving, calm influences.
Calming forces.
We could just say it in a different way.
Yes, it definitely works better usually than our way, except for the new Drew, who's just perfectly angry. It's great.
Yeah, I'm a little more compassionate like you are.
Yeah, it's
between pissed off and compassionate.
No, but you spent so many years being such a Buddha that now people just listen to it, and it's great. It's great. It really is. It's been working, man. I'm telling you. Because it's true. Because like when if Didi Umber gets fired up and kind of like raises his voice almost, you're like, you listen because that's not how he always is. So like when you have something to say, I do truly believe that people really do listen to it because they know who you are. They know that you're a calm, loving, quieter, gentler soul than a lot of us others. So when you get fired up, I think people, think it's important and it's great. I love it.
Yeah. And I didn't say much at all for years, but when you don't have much to say, you don't say much. You just don't say something to be heard.
Fine, thanks.
Like wait till you have something and then you can say something.
That's a great idea. You could have told me that 15 years ago. Thanks.
I tried. You didn't listen. I didn't carry that weight back then.
Well,
Look at him.
you use the word compassionate, right? And I think I know for me, and I know we've talked about this, like what frustrates us is what can be with this profession. There's so much potential that we're not tapping into
Yeah.
because it's just so many little camps working against each other. And the DE camp is so passionate about chiropractic, pure principle chiropractic, it almost gets us in trouble.
It does get us in trouble.
And I think that's worth expanding on. Why? What is the problem? You got an army of fired up, older and younger chiropractors that love the profession so much. They want to get involved, move the profession forward, blow it up. And people are going, wait a minute, we can't do that.
Well, I'll give you my opinion. It's like the movie 300. The reason 300 is such a phenomenon is because nobody expects 300 warriors to be able to take on these huge battles. So most people's mindset is more, more, more. We gotta, we can't offend people because we need more people in our camp. And I think we just come more with the mindset of now, not purposely not trying to have people, but that we're not going to change our story to get more people.
Right.
And that doesn't fit a lot of people's agenda who, and the minute we've talked about this before with the ICA, and even, we've talked about it with any leadership capacity, that the leadership should be held accountable for what the organization stands for. The people in the organization do not need to be held accountable. That is up to them to join and be there. But the leadership should be held to a higher standard. And I think that is what's kept DE what it is, that Dr. Sid kept it at a high standard, that we have continued at a high standard of especially, at minimum leadership. But I think it frustrates people that it's not an all-inclusive big tent. Hey, let's let everybody kumbaya, and that will be more powerful. And I'm not saying it can't be, but I don't think a garden, with half plants and half weeds is, stronger than a garden with just those plants,
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
and I think DE is a magnifying glass for the rest of the profession too. If there's some disparity going on in the profession, like it's gonna, when you shine it through the DE magnifying glass, it's gonna show up. It's gonna show up. And I think if we like DE is just disrupting the status quo. Just being disruptive. And that's a good thing.
That is very good. True.
well, yeah, like Brian said, I mean, we don't need more people in general. We just need more chiropractors.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, we need more warrior. I hate to use the word warrior because it might be disrespectful to people who actually fight in wars. But we need more people who are plugged in, on fire, and are okay just being being a chiropractor. I mean that they're not. That it's I always it's when I hear somebody say, "Oh, just Atlas," I'm like, "Oh, I only adjusted Atlas." Only? Okay, well, that's something. Okay, good. And like only it's like that's discomforting. And honestly, I think if, in my opinion, and just my opinion, it comes down to mostly money, and fame. Fame with fixing everybody. So if the laser fixes their knee or the whatever, they just. And I think people think that people want shiny, fancy new things, and they're just not willing to see that you can just adjust and have a phenomenal life.
Right.
And that's the DE principle is, it's not looking on the outside for all that shiny stuff. It's looking within,
Similar to
all the answers are.
Similar to our take on health, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. We'll
exactly.
tell our patients, don't look outside for all your answers, and then we'll look outside for all their answers. It's unfortunate, and it gets us this rap, Dr. Sabinos, and that's why I spoke to an organization. I don't really want to say it out loud about, lasting purpose. That maybe this is a segue into it. You know, how seemingly on all the material that this organization puts out, um, you know, the last sentence is left off of all of it. So, you know, to do, to give, to love, to serve out of your own abundance, and then that's it. There's no expectation of return. And I kind of pointed that out to this person, and you know that, oh, look what I just found. Just make sure everybody knows. Look at that.
Oh,
That's
Boondocks
cool.
Coffee. Boondocks Coffee. Order it. It's not mine, I promise.
Sponsored by.
It's called public service announcement. You know, and the person said, well, yeah, you know, I've mentioned that too. And truly, I think it comes down to that the people within the organization, who they receive money from, don't want to hear about no expectation of return, because their entire story is all about return, you know, and what we could make. And it's unfortunate,
Right.
because that's without no expectation of return. Lasting purpose is a nearly useless. It's no better than anything else.
Mhm.
If you're going to do it, if you walk into the office and this guy smells and he's terrible and he yells at you and he curses, but he hands you $1 million and says, will you get me adjusted? Everybody's going to say, sure, no problem. That doesn't take a lot to do that. But if that same person came in and said, I have a $5 bill, and you know, I used to get adjusted by Dr. Sidney Day, and now I'm homeless, and you know, can you get me adjusted? And they're stinking up the office, and people smell, and he smells like poop. You know, it might not be the perfect example, but I'm saying, if that person paid you a lot of money, it wouldn't be very difficult to overlook all the negatives of that person and do it. But that's not giving out of your own abundance and not expecting anything in return. That's just based on the expectation, not even the actual event. So we just need to make sure people keep that last sentence on. It's so important.
Yeah. And that's a great analogy, bro. That's a great example you gave. And I think that speaks volumes.
yeah, and I think that still goes back to mindset too, because it's abundance mindset or scarcity mindset. You know, and if you're in a place of fear and competition and self-interest, you're going to struggle with sustainable success, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to struggle with that. And those who live in unlimited possibilities and share knowledge and money and uplift others freely, man, that's already a success. You know, the it's a greater prosperity, you know, and greater fulfillment when you try to give it away.
I don't understand. The guy who I can barely understand, no matter what he says that I tried to say, sounds so much better when he says it, and I can barely understand him. It's fantastic.
But you're giving him the ideas, which is good, Brian. So you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And then he just polishes them
You're
off
right,
in
it
some
is.
way.
he's your AI. You're just
There
putting
you
it in
go.
there. He's cleaning it up for you.
The AI
Yeah.
is DH.
AI Drew. We'll call him Otter.
DH goes in here, comes out there.
It's chat Drew PT.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Drew PT.
Write that down.
I gotta write that down.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But you know, like seriously, like success is not a zero-sum game. You know, if we elevate other people, we're going to elevate ourselves.
But I think that's what DE is really when it comes down to
Yeah.
it. People could hear us talking saying we're being judgmental of the mixers, right? And we're not. What I'm judgmental of is the image that gives chiropractic in the profession moving forward. Because now we're just another treatment medical profession.
That's it.
We want them to come to DE. Now you might be uncomfortable by some things people are saying on the platform, because they're calling you out indirectly and it hurts. Like that's got to be uncomfortable. But then to ask yourself, why am I uncomfortable? And to keep coming back and saying, well, maybe I'm being incongruent and I could do better. And you keep showing up. And if you could open up your heart, I think we're doing a great job on letting people come in and be comfortable and open up, because we have a lot of people doing it now, transforming their lives, getting rid of crap, building their practice, seeing families, double, tripling practices in 5-6 months. That people need to realize it's a comfortable space. Like I've had people call me and say, is it okay for me to come? I'm like, you're not going to get beat up. Emotionally, you might, but we're there to love you. Like, we'll point out people that are going to hug on you. How many times you see someone sitting on the floor crying and you walk over and give them a tissue, they give you a hug, they open up and have a conversation, and it changes their entire life.
Yeah,
Some
I mean
good stuff.
that's the experience that's the experience they're gonna have, their personal experience, whether it's, they're gonna feel like fantastic or they're gonna feel like crap and because they gotta look in the mirror and see what they're doing and being congruent and all that stuff. So it's a relationship, it's an experience between their own relationship with themselves, not what the people at DE are gonna do or think about them.
Right.
I mean, Dr. Sid was doing this since the beginning,
Right.
Well, I guess I got a little bit of that experience just recently. Okay, so maybe I didn't add things into my office, but based on my standard, my office just, if we're just talking, simple, sucked. It was not what it should have been, right? And so I can be there and justify my discomfort, or I can be there and show up and then decide finally that, all right, I'm ready to cut out the bullshit and get back to doing what the hell I know I should be doing and need to be doing and want to be doing. This has been so much more fun than the last few months before that. It's been such a difference for me, which translates to everybody else. But that's the same thing. I felt uncomfortable there because I know I'm not on my peak, what I should be doing. But I spent I obviously spent a long time justifying my discomfort and allowing it to just continue until I got uncomfortable enough or pushed. Would I have changed if Bree wasn't coming in? I don't know. Would I have got that same epiphany that that's it? This is bullshit. I can't do this anymore. I don't know. There's no way of knowing.
You remember when we went
but
to
it happened the way it was supposed to happen because Bree was coming in. I mean, that's just
100%. 100%.
It's like a
100%.
mirror was put up in front of you because your daughter was coming. It's like, oh boy.
It was humbling. It was
And
humbling.
listen, I'm going through the same thing in my office. Like, we're in the same space where it's like, we got to get back to the standard. You lose the standard. We lost volume. Granted, I was flying back and forth, whatever, excuses. It was my poor leadership that allowed it. And I learned from it. And, it was funny because I brought that in my consciousness to one of the DEs, and Paula Hedgelon, the most loving person in the room, walked up to me, asked me one question. I kind of answered her, and she gave me a very hard action step that I was like, oh my God. Like,
Awesome.
That's hard. I know that's what must happen. It could hurt somebody, but it was like, coming from her, I knew that was like God talking to me. It was like, now I had a choice to make, either act on it or not. And then coming back to the next DE and her saying what happened, and I wasn't going to do that. It was tough. It held me accountable.
And that left hook will come from where you least expect it, right? It came from Paula, and the big thing is it's all from love. It's all out of love.
100%. That's when it's right.
Oh,
that's when I couldn't
especially when it comes
talk
from
myself
Paula.
out of it or make excuses or I'm like, It's kind of like, Brian, remember the picture falling off the wall?
Oh my God.
It's like this
Unreal.
spirit thing going on there.
We didn't listen to that.
Decision, and all of a sudden a picture out of nowhere crashes off the wall. No, we didn't touch it. And we're like, oh no, we can't do that.
We were talking to somebody about maybe inviting them into some space at DE. And that person was here and we were over here looking this way. And literally a picture comes falling off the wall directly in between us, straight down. Like, do not cross this line. And we're like,
we looked at each other like, okay.
That was the answer. We were struggling with that.
Yeah.
With that answer.
We were trying to be nice. We were trying to be like.
We were trying to be nice.
Maybe that's loving. And Nate was like, no.
Nope. Don't even think about it. It reminds me of, since we were talking to Joe Corso and being very transparent, back like 15, 20 years ago, maybe. I've been practicing 27 years. At one point, one of my first associates said, let's go do Body by God or whatever. So I was doing some off the wall traction crap. You say a little strap around your neck, right? Never had anything in my office before or since. had that in there and I justified it with curve stuff, right? So doing a talk and I get off the stage, Joe Cursa, and I had mentioned it. Joe Cursa grabs me, he's like, let's take a walk. I'm like, all right. I'm a young punk at this time, just, maybe a few years speaking, I don't think I wasn't running D or, helping with running it all. And he's like, what'd you think of your talk? I was like, I don't know. I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. I thought it was
Until
pretty decent.
now.
It's like, it would have been a lot better if you didn't have that crap in your office. I was like, certain people that might have made me, buck against it. Kind of like if it came from somebody from besides Paula, it might not have had the same impact on you. You might have had a different, but from him, with the respect that I had for him, I was like, all right, they'll be gone. And Monday before I started practicing, I threw them in the garbage. And I'd say maybe like 20% of my people would do it. And they would start on like the third or fourth or fifth visit. Like they would start doing it. And nobody asked that. We closed the door. They were in a hallway. And I just closed the doors to the hallway, threw the stuff off, took it off the wall, threw it out. And the one person was supposed to start that day, and they said, what about that traction thing? So I just said, what I always learned was, well, I was at a conference this weekend and I found out that stuff causes cancer, so we're not going to do it anymore. That was it. She's like, okay. And I laughed. She knew it was a joke, but I was like, yeah, we don't need to do it. And that was it. The only person, you think in your mind, you can't make a change, you can't do something because what will the people think?
Right.
And then you do it, and they're like,
they don't care.
That happened when you guys called me out on cutting, taking down the half walls in my office.
Dude, that was funny.
Yeah. Oh,
you were mad. You were mad.
I was pissed off for like 15 minutes. I went in. Finally, I was in the mirror. I'm like, "What are you mad about? You asked them your opinion. They told you what it was, and now you're mad." And then I figured out that I was mad because innately I knew I needed to take those half walls down, but didn't have the courage to do it. Didn't act. I could listen, but I wasn't acting. So getting called out on my own BS is really what I was upset about. And I looked in the mirror and said, stop being a pansy, stop being a dick, and go out there. And then I went out, thanked you, and we ripped the walls down after. And then literally people were like, oh, this is so much more efficient. Oh my God, this is great. It's like much quicker. We can get in and get out. I'm like, why do I even think? You know what? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And whoever's listening, Steve said something a minute ago about people sitting in the floor crying, shedding their husk and everything. But all of us cry in that room all the time too.
Mm-hmm.
None of us got our shit together. We're all just trying to get the unlock and do better. And DE is bigger than the people on the platform. DE is bigger even than Dr. Sid Williams and Dr. Neil Williams, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't still be going on after their death. It's a movement that transcends all that we're a product of that. Like, we've all sat in the floor and cried too. I still cry every freaking DE. Yeah. Every one. Yeah. It's did last night on the Band of Brothers call. Ryan Dobbs, like, it's all right. None of us got our shit together. We all just trying to figure it out. We all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think it's cool of it. I mean, I've been going to DE since '93. I think you too, Brian. So we've been doing it for what,
31 years,
32 years, 30, yeah.
I think January, October's 30 was 32.
Yeah. And we could still sit here and now that we're, we are giving a lot of our experience or whatever at DE on the stage and stuff. But like Steve said, we're still learning. We're giving, but we're still receiving from DE too. So it's that, I think that's the coolest thing.
I don't buy anybody's there. Okay, I take that back. Very, very few people are there. They might be there at times. They might be there much more often than other people, but nobody. The biggest relationship guru has a fight with their damn wife. I mean, there's, what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, Dr. Sid was was different because, and I just think it's some people are so connected to their innate and aren't afraid to act on it that makes them so different and the incredible ones. But the rest of us are just doing the best damn job we can, man. One day to the next, you know, there's no way to go through life and predict. Are you kidding me? Like Steve, like you could have predicted that you're gonna take your entire 5 kids and move out of the state from Connecticut to Florida because the vaccine crap came up. You know, you can't prepare for the. You can prepare. You can't prepare specifically for that, and you know that's going to throw you at some point. You're going to need somebody. You're going to need things, and you're going to need people to help ground you and you know refocus you. And it, you know, yes, the more you've trained before, the better you can handle it. That's why you handled it so amazing and still do. But you think it didn't throw him? You think he still does it hard that he's traveling back and forth and doing? You know, it is. That's you know that shit's a lot. You know, and people go through that all the time, and deaths and you know, and you know, big things that you know you're not prepared for. You know, like you spoke about Ryan Dobbs, but you know, he was on the call last night, on Monday, and you know, who's preparing for their 45-year-old wife to pass away from cancer? You know, who did everything right. You know, I mean, you know, so, but you know, that's where I'm so thankful that I have this anchor.
Well, the beauty of DE is you know, you look who carried Dobbs and his family through that was majority DE family, right?
Yep.
And then, you know, me moving to Florida, it wasn't just me. Like it was Tammy. Me and Tammy had a 4-minute conversation that like, we got to go. And she said, yes. And the next day we sat down the 5 kids and it was a 5-minute conversation. And out of 100%, they were all 85% plus like, let's go. There was no drama.
Right.
But these babies grew up in the back of that DE room.
Yes.
They grew up listening and hearing and relationships and innate and faith and, you know, just, you know, no attachment, lasting purpose that they were able to say there was no complaining and then move there and jump right in.
And flourish.
And flourish. Like that wasn't Steve.
Right.
That's not Steve. That's going to DE since 94, bringing my wife before I was married to her, deciding if this is going to be my wife, her showing up and loading us up on the plane 4 times a year, right? It wasn't, oh, I got kids, I'm too busy, it's hard. No, each child we had came to DE breastfeeding. It just was a way of life that when shit hits the fan, that's when this stuff shows up.
I don't talk about, you know, I'm not the guy who says I'm a big deal or I'm anything, but you know, the one thing that I just have always said that I like that I've said is that I never wanted to speak at DE. I just wanted to raise my kids there. And that is an absolute true statement. Anybody who knows me knows that well. But you don't know. It's amazing what you don't know that they know.
Yep.
Yeah, and talking about preparation, somebody asked, I think it was Monday this week or maybe last week. So like, how long did it take you to learn how to give an adjustment like that? I'm like, 48 years. You know, we prepare our whole life for like each little moment. You know, it's not like, oh, well, I took a course on Udemy or however you say that, and now I'm prepared to move to Florida. Like, no, like it's just your life, 50 whatever years when you moved, prepared you for that move.
You know, it's like we always use the word principle. And I had a guy look across from me at a table once. We were with a group of chiropractors, and he said, I don't understand that word principled. I'm like, come on, you do. You just can't attach yourself to it because you're allowing yourself to do unprincipled things. So I ask myself all the time, life was a heck of a lot easier when I drove 3 miles down the road and my kids were all here, right? I didn't have the extra real estate because I needed other places to live, et cetera. So now life is more expensive now than it ever has, right? That, what the hell am I talking about? I lost my train of thought.
Principle. You said
Principle.
Principle. when you try, because I mess it up all the time. Like I'm not the most principled person. Let's just get that right. But when you try to live by principle and have certain values and you want to live by them, it forces you to make a decision on things that sometimes are really hard. If I ever thought I'd be living in freaking Florida, there was no way. I would always say no. I'll do the winter thing or whatever. But then when I realized it was protecting my kids, their freedom, and what I call shit tards around them, making decisions that I didn't want them to be raised around, it made it very easy to just let go of a lot of an easy life to create that. To me, that's principle. That's the principle.
Yeah, I don't
you
know if
know,
I'm.
yeah, Steve, when I was just thinking when you're talking about kids and stuff, um, when I saw Sierra testify at that hearing, was it in Connecticut or
Yeah.
about the vaccines and all that stuff, and just watching her speak and how eloquently she expressed herself, that was just her growing up in DE and that principle that you're talking about. So that prepared her for that moment. Yeah.
You know what's funny about that is that was my speaking spot. That was my spot. And one day me and Tammy were together and Sierra FaceTime us. And she said, "Hey guys, I wrote something. I want to know what you think." So she did this all on her own and she read exactly what she read in front of them. She sat down and wrote that. And Tammy looks at me and she goes, "She needs to speak in your spot." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." So that's how she did it. I mean, it wasn't like I said, "Hey, Sierra, why don't you do this? Why don't you?" She did it all on her own.
It's
And
awesome.
and then her soccer coach had called her, the one from college, and said, "Can you get the fake ID card? Like, we really need you." She told him no. And she came walking. I go, "Who was that?" She goes, "That was coach." I said, "What do you want?" He wanted to know if I could get the fake ID card. He really wants me. Blah, blah. I said, "What do you tell him?" She said, "No, I don't want to live a lie." And I'm like, dude, you can't make this shit up. I wasn't coaching her through this. She didn't need it. She had what, 16 years of coaching from all you guys and showing up and being around the right people.
Yeah, and full circle. She came in the office Monday, and all lasting purpose, she brings us 2 coffees.
Ah,
And we're like, "Listen, girl, you in college, you don't have no money. Keep your money. We
Yeah.
don't need coffee."
And
She's
then
like, "Oh
Steve's
well,
like,
here
you
you
don't
go."
bring it home to your parents, though. They're always better for
No,
everybody else.
it's just like,
But
but
that's
it's just
good.
lasting purpose,
It's
and she
awesome.
does it,
Great kid.
you don't have to call it that by name,
right.
but it's just been an example to her,
It's a way of
you
life.
know.
Yeah.
And and if somebody, I looked at this research real quick. If somebody doesn't understand principle, you know what the latest research says?
What?
It says right here that they like to eat bananas not for the taste, but for the shape. That's just research, bro. Like, I can't help it. So if you don't understand the word principle, get you a
Wonder who
dictionary.
funded that research? Does it say?
Uh,
Chiquita?
yeah. Benjamin Dover.
Oh,
No
okay. We're gonna do
hesitation.
level. That's fantastic.
No
Um,
hesitation.
yeah. How do you follow that up? It's great. I don't know how he does it,
I
but
don't
he
know.
does it. That wraps up my summary of wanting to raise my kids there. When you hear, her bringing in 2 coffees,
Right.
just because she's coming in and knows he loves coffees. That's they can be a pain in the butt sometimes, but they give you those glimpses a lot of just being good human beings.
Amen.
So
Amen.
Just stuff that just makes you tear up. Like, why are you doing that? Like,
yeah.
just keep your money. It's okay. But I love it. I almost don't want to drink it because it's special.
Ah,
It's just like, oh, this is so good.
just have her sign your cup and keep it.
That's what we should do.
One of the big things we started again, Monday after we got back from DE was back to doing breaths. And I thought once in the morning was enough, but that quickly turned to, once in the morning, once before the afternoon shift now every time. And now getting to hear Bree do breaths, and you start, you start gaining the insight of what's in there. And she gets it. Like, that's not forget about the principle of chiropractic, all that. That's easy, I think. She gets service, love, attraction, just some of the really life lessons, in my opinion, and that's and I'm just so fucking grateful. I mean, I bet 2 or 3 times a week, when I'm doing my breasts, and I seem to start them off every time with just talking about gratitude. I thank Dr. Sid and DE for coming into my life, because it certainly would be a very, 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 very different outcome if it wasn't for that. And that's why I'm so loyal. That's probably the number one reason I'm so loyal, is because I know what my life looks like now, and I know how much of that is based on Dr. Sid and his teachings. And we've talked about this before. If we can get one. My mom used to hug all her. She was a New York City school teacher, 30-something years, and she would hug all her kids on their way out. And but the point was, people would ask, "How can you do it?" It's a little kind of difficult. It's not always the easiest job. And she said, "If I can just make difference in one of them each year, I've done my job. Awesome." And we've been seeing a lot of that at DE, and I think it's because we're more fired up. We're more just like back to basics in our office. I think we're bringing that energy, to DE, and we're just seeing people that are telling us that their lives are changing. Shredder is one of the greatest examples of that right now. Just an easy example right there. That kid's life is just different, and that is so stinking rewarding. And not pat on the back, tell people about it rewarding, just knowing that he's sitting somewhere right now much happier in his life than he was 2 years ago,
Right. Yep.
We've all been pretty fortunate. We've all done pretty well, the whole time. There were 3 of 4 of us are married, other probably in a relationship, but we've had like kind of. I always said if I was going to speak at DE, I wish I had a story, like that. I threw all my machines away, but I just kind of, it's been a little Brady Bunch-ish, it just. But when you see people who have struggled a lot, and I think now again, just from this last DE, I can relate more to it in such a smaller way, not even really on the same page, but just when you can see their lives go from shit, not just their lives, but their relationships, even, relationships first with themselves, then second, even with spouses or children. And you can see, and then success, and then financial, as later, even less important, but still important. I find I'm proud to be involved in something that has the ability to do that. Just like I'm proud to be able to be involved in chiropractic in my office because of the things it can do for people's lives,
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said, when you're talking about loyalty, and you've never stopped coming to DE, and so you haven't had the opportunity to have that story. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you didn't have to go to rock bottom to build yourself back up, because you never disconnected from the source, or DE, or this life. So it's a good thing you don't have the story. You don't want it, but
I
there's a
don't
reason
want
why.
that.
There's a reason why. Yeah.
Yeah. And even with that, I had my own small story.
Sure.
You can be there all the time, and still, life comes at you in different ways. And I'm just, again, you're right. I don't want the story, and that's when I, say I can see the 2 paths: go that way or go that way. Stay with it or don't. And I know that path's not good for me. I need DE too much. To even consider not. And I feel like sometimes it's like a relationship with a spouse. I know, again, just being real, me and Ray are passionately in love, and we can fight passionately as well too, and it's not always, you're not always at the same place, but we made a commitment, a loyalty to each other, and that has gotten us through some hard times too, where it's just like, no, that, we might not be in the best spot right now, but there's no other option. So let's just, let's go through this. And I think sometimes, different reasons I stayed deep. Maybe one time, if I felt like I was going low, maybe I stayed because my ego, I didn't want to be, I'm supposed to be there or something. Whatever it is, whatever goes on, I just made a loyalty commitment and say, this is where I'm going to be at. And it's worked out really, really well and has helped me through so many things in my life and continues to do so,
Yeah, and that goes back to the Lasting Purpose book with a made up mindset. You got a made up mindset.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Burn the ships.
Yep. Made up mind.
All the cliches we use, we learned in that room.
We were talking earlier about, what happens, and I kept thinking the tide lifts all boats. I mean, you start bringing the energy up, that tide lifts all boats, man. I mean, you started raising the energy with the keys and stuff at DE. It absolutely changed the landscape of what was going on there. It was a huge difference. Because the tide lifts all boats.
100%.
Love it.
100%. Good stuff, man.
It is.
All right, boys. You got anything else to share?
Oh, we got a lot to share, but we don't have to do it all in one session.
Yeah. I mean, how about, April DE, Clearwater.
10th through the 13th.
Yeah, 10 to the 13th. What is it? lifede.com
Yep.
Is the website to register. We'd love to have you. If you're listening to this and not sure, it's kind of I said it to somebody today. They're like, I want to, start on a monthly plan. And I said, I'm pretty sure of this. And I don't say this usually. I don't know where it came from, but I was like, I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed. Oh, that's what it was. I was talking about, sticking around. I said, if most people who stick around our office for 3 months are here forever. And she said, I want to do it. I said, I if you stick around, I don't think you'll be disappointed, and I feel like the same way with DE, man. I don't. If you give it a little bit of some time, I don't think you'll be disappointed, honestly. I think the upside, the ability that it could have to make such a positive impact in your life, your family's lives, your practice life, is well worth the investment in doing it. It is a nonprofit. Everybody should know. All of us pay our own way to get there, pay for our hotels, pay for, we might get a free hat thrown at us every once in a while, but we pay for being there. Even though we're on the board, helping to run it. And I think that's important to know. This is about helping other people, helping lift the boats that are in the water. And we just have a group of dedicated people, not just the board. They're the incredible speakers and incredible people in the audience who are helping lift the boat. And you'll never know who's going to carry your boat at some point. So we welcome you there.
Yeah, and if you're a CA, if you're a spouse, if you're a doctor, whatever, and change got to come, just reach out to somebody. Like, come to DE. If it's your spouse or your boss is a chiropractor, like, get them to DE. You can be the advocate for them. You don't have to wait on them. We have a lot of people watching this stuff. Get them to DE. I can think of 3 or 4 people right now that their CA brought them to DE. Right. It doesn't have to be the boss man's job.
Right.
Yep.
Like if it's your spouse, like, baby, we got to get to DE. We got to turn this thing around. And if you come, you do it faithfully, it'll turn around. I guarantee you, it'll turn around.
Blocking and tackling.
Yep. Blocking and tackling. Back to basics.
Never goes out of style.
Nope.
All right, boys.
Yep. All right, boys. Love you.
Yeah,
love and
y'all.
appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much.
Listening to this, share it, like it, help us promote it, man. Get the word out there because these guys dropped absolute flipping bombs. Thank you.
I don't know if it'd be good for them, but it was great for me.
Me too.
All right, Big Eddie. Anything?
All right, guys.
All right.
I'm good, man. I'm good.
You got it.
Your first DE, Steve, you walked in the room and then you walked out of the room, right?
3 times.
Twice. 3 times, yeah.
3 times. So imagine if you wouldn't have stuck to it and just came back in that 4th time. So
think about that.
Your life would have been different.
Man.
You said that so many times that just thankfully something kept dragging you back in. You're not even, innately just knew you had to. But think about the difference. Think about, though Dr. Sid was my, primary mentor, obviously, that you're a huge mentor to me. And I can't imagine what DE would be doing right now if you weren't there. So thankfully you walk back. We love and appreciate you, man. You don't get enough.
Dr. Sid, one of the biggest things he teaches us was to listen to the voice within.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that. That was my first DE. I didn't know those words, but I was heading to the escalator and a voice in my head said no. And I went to the bathroom, went back in. I did that 2 more times and I didn't know why I was going in. But a voice in my head said, you need to be here. You need to be here. You need to be here. And that's what made me turn around 3 times until boom, I knew why I was there. So you never know when it's going to hit you. I'm glad it hit me early. I had a chance to go out and party with my new friends and we were done with exams and something made me go there. And here you are, everything we just talked about. I mean, we all ended up together for a reason. And that's huge.
Huge. And just one last thing, you never know where it's coming from and when. We probably, 4 of us, might not be here right now if Life University didn't lose its accreditation and DE didn't go down to 30 people.
Right.
There's a good chance. That's when we all became
300
brothers. That is when it happened. And yeah, that sucked, that whole thing. I couldn't be any more thankful for it because these are my closest people in the world now. That I literally pretty sure I don't know. You never know. But man, you look at how you never know where it's going to come, when it's going to come, who it's going to come from. I know we're finished, but Drew, none of us knew him. And he would stand in the back and he would take pictures and he would work with the little recording stuff. And then one DE, I think he did it to all of us at the same DE. Was that true, Drew? That he gave us the CD?
Yep.
He handed me a CD and I was like, hey, all right, thanks, man.
Who's this weird lanky
I think I
boy?
knew your name. I'm not sure. But I know that CD sat on a shelf in my office for, I think, 4 or 6 months. And all of a sudden, something came up, can't tell you what it was. And I put it in, and it was thousands and thousands of hours of every great speaker from BJ Palmer forward. And like, it blew my mind. It created this thing. Like Drew was patient enough to just like wait for the moment. He didn't say, hey, here's the CD. It's got all the talkers. Listen to it because you'll like me or what, whatever the case may be. He just planted that seed, man. And, I just remember, coming after I saw that and just knowing that I had to thank him and then, it developed into obviously what we have now, which is just an incredible brotherhood. So again, where all this is coming from, I have no idea. It's awesome, though. But I love and appreciate you guys. You guys are very influential in my life, man.
Yeah, and I was at Life when all that shit went down. We were marching to governor's office, we were marching to senators' offices, and the people that were there, Oasis one of them, but we're all right. I think it has tempered us and put us through the fire. And we knew from the get-go it's not going to be easy out there. It just got that fight in us from the beginning. And then shit, man, that was it,
I've never sat in the front. I sat in the second row when there was 30 people and listened to Dr. Sid, and you would have thought there was 1,000 people in the room.
Yeah.
It felt exactly the same. And when all I saw was 2 rows full, it felt exactly the same. There was only 5 people behind me, whatever it was. But it's, just showing up and create, I'll never forget that. Like Dr. Sid, it didn't matter if there was 1,000 or 30, he performed the same way. And like, what a lesson for our offices, for our lives, for our kids, whatever it is, to know that, if this is what you love and this is what you do, then do it well. Like, I didn't even think of that until now, like me being a little bitch in my office and not, just running through some motions, these people deserve better. And Dr. Sid always felt these people, the 30 of them deserve better, and that's freaking awesome, man. Such good shit. Such good stuff. All right. Now that I won't sleep for tonight. Appreciate it. Gonna go downstairs and adjust some tables. All right. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All
Yeah,
right.
love y'all.
Bye, everybody.